They say when a baby is born, so is a mother. But while you are there to help your baby grow into the person he or she is meant to be, who is there to help you? Many women feel lost and alone when they become mothers, wondering, who am I now? Sometimes it feels like the transformation from woman to mother is as radical as a caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly. Did you know that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar literally turns into goop before it rearranges itself into a butterfly? This podcast is about the goop, what soul transformation looks like as you transition from being a woman to a mom. Your baby's growth matters, but yours does too. You're not alone. I'm your host, Brittany Ming. Welcome to the Motherhood Metamorphosis.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Motherhood Metamorphosis. I'm your host, Brittany Ming, and today we are talking with Caitlin Brown. Caitlin is a new face in the blogging world. She has recently promoted to a stay-at-home mommy that keeps it real. Her goal in this life is to use her victories and struggles to help other women. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad. I'm so glad to see you face to face and we can talk. So when I was thinking about your topic when we were emailing, I was just struck with this idea that sometimes we think motherhood, especially when we have our first child, is going to be this blank slate. Like I'm stepping into this new phase of my life. And in a lot of ways, that's true. We do have this blank slate to start a new thing, but we're also bringing with us everything from our life and our past into motherhood with us.
Right.
And that includes a lot of our struggles. And today you wanted to talk about pregnancy after recovering from an eating disorder.
Yes. So I grew up, always struggled with my weight. Kind of felt like it was a disadvantage my whole life, kind of. Something that bothered me. My sister had the same issue. And, so then in high school, I finally got kind of sick of it. And I started doing something about it. I started eating healthier and working out. And, I really kind of had a hold on it. And I started losing weight and I just felt better. I was doing it the right way in the right time. And everything was great. I mean, there are so many ways you can do it in a healthy way. And I found one. So that was going well. And I started, loving myself more and just feeling better. And then I was dating someone super serious and we got engaged. And then we were going to college and we bought a house and we were planning a wedding. And life just kind of started spiraling out of control. And I started misusing my weight management. And that was because it was the one thing I could control. So only I could do it. Like the whole world, I felt like I had 1,000 balls in the air. There was so much going on all the time. Nothing that was in my control. Like when you're like trying to buy a house, it's a competitive market. You don't know if you're going to get it. You're going to school and you don't know, you do this, but you don't know what your grade's going to be. And it's all up to other people. Well, my weight was one thing that I could control. And that number was something that I had a grasp on. And so anyways, it just spiraled out of control. It became the thing that controlled me rather than me controlling it. And this went on for a couple of years. And finally my family just put their foot down and told me that they were going to commit me if I didn't get some help. I didn't even think I had a problem, but I definitely did. I was very, very thin. I can't say numbers because that's such a triggering thing for people, but yeah. I was far too thin for an adult woman. And every day the number needed to go down. It couldn't go up. And so a new normal was established each day. It's just hard to explain. But anyway, so I got some help. And then, fast forward a few years later, it's still part of who I am. That was only, 6 years ago probably. And then find out I'm pregnant and just the idea of not being able to control that number, just knowing I'm going to landslide. In my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to gain all this weight and I'm going to and I have no control. And so, fighting through that, we can talk more about those different things, but fighting through that during my whole pregnancy and then to come out on the other side and to see just life after it as well. It's just been such an experience for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know that sometimes these topics and these stories can be hard to talk about. It's not like just like a story you bring up when you like meet somebody at the park. Be like, yeah, so I struggled with an eating disorder before I got pregnant. It's kind of like a story that brings crickets and people don't really know what to say. But I love that you wanted to talk about this because I think that so many women are struggling with this or struggling with diet culture or struggling with feeling worthy in whatever weight they're at. So thank you for telling us that. And yes, I would really love for you just to take us back to what you were feeling about this particular challenge when you found out you were pregnant, and maybe some of the supports that you had and just that journey through your pregnancy.
Okay. I would like to say, I think a lot of people, I think there are two separate things. I think that women, our world is crazy about like our image and stuff like that. And that is a whole nother field. But I feel like an eating disorder is just very misunderstood. I never wanted to look skinny. Like that was not my thing. I was never like, even at my thinnest, I was still like, I wasn't like, I look attractive. I actually did not like it. I looked I looked unapproachable. I looked sick. And the problem is, I think so many people misunderstand and they don't know why they're struggling with an eating disorder. And most of the time it is about control. And I think that's, people are always like, why do you want to be so skinny? And it's like, that is not what I want. I want control in my work. So I think that's something that like, that's why I want to talk about it to people, because I just want women to understand, like, if you're struggling with it, you have to find new ways to be in control.
Yes.
And it can't be like, you have to get back in the driver's seat. Like, you can't let it drive you. And there are so many other ways other than coping negatively with food or over exercising or whatever your avenue is. So that's just one thing I want people to like know more about that. I think that even, my family as a support system didn't understand that at first. And so that was really tricky, just the control thing, but that's a whole nother topic. But
no, that's a great clarification. And also I think as it applies to motherhood, because you can feel so out of control as a new mom to be like, this child is coming in and, for lack of a better word, I mean, like upending your entire life. And instead of just having yourself to take care of, now you have a whole nother human to take care of, and you can feel very out of control. So that's a really good distinction that you made there. Thank you.
Yeah, because that is, I mean, the pregnancy itself is such a slippery slope for someone with an eating disorder. They said that being pregnant, I did a lot of research and stuff, and it's actually like a huge, I was in control when I got pregnant. I was the one in control of it, and I had kind of nailed it down, and was, it was a little bit of a voice in my head, but I was in control. But going through a big life change like that can send you straight back down. It's like a huge trigger. So even like you said, if you get through your whole pregnancy and you're like, okay, I made it, having a newborn is another thing you can't control. And then for the rest of their lives, it's a huge thing. So forever, I'm going to have to make sure that I work on it every day. It's part of who I am. And I think that, I've had to become friends with the voice in my head instead of making it my enemy. It's going to live there. This voice is going to live there forever. And I have to just learn to coexist and like change the narrative in my head.
So can we go on that avenue a little bit with the making friends with the voice in your head? So tell us, like, what are some of the narratives that speak into you that you have to answer back to be in the driver's seat?
Okay. So silly enough, when I found out I was pregnant, I told my husband. Obviously, I thought I was going to do like, I dreamed about it forever, like the cute little Pinterest thing and how I'm going to tell him and I'm going to wrap it up and blah, blah, blah. No, I called him ugly crying. He was in Texas. I'm talking sobbing. He thought something was wrong. And I'm like, whatever. Second person I called was my therapist. And I told her, I need to I'm pregnant, but I need an appointment. And she was like, congratulations, I'll get you down. I knew right then I have to take some action because the voice started right away.
Yeah.
It was like, I was so happy to be pregnant. And, it's so sad because they had told me my eating disorder was going to make me not be able to have a baby. So my eating disorder already was almost threatening this control over my pregnancy before I even had one, telling me you're not going to be able to. But my therapist and I, we talked about it for so much that I just started calling that voice Ed. I know it sounds silly, but eating disorder. So I called it Ed, like he is part of my brain, and I know that sounds silly, but when you hear this voice is so loud sometimes, I mean, like, don't do that. You can't have that. Why this, that, questioning yourself, you hear it all the time. And so I've had to just actually, like I said, like try to make friends with that voice. But, when I first got pregnant, it was like all the work I had done. I remember thinking that it was going to snowball. Like I wasn't going to be gaining the right amount of weight. It was 1 pound was going to turn into like 10, like overnight. I just remember, that's the vivid memory, like of a snowball rolling down a hill. We've all seen that, like just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, like exponentially, not just normal. And I couldn't see the beauty of it. Like a lot of women, they really enjoy their pregnancies and they give into their cravings and they take it easy on themselves and stuff. And mine from day one was, how can I gain the least amount of weight while still having a healthy baby? And that's really not a good narrative to have.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go wild. I think that there's another end of things, but at the same time, I remember just thinking, how can almost my eating disorder kind of swooped back in like a tidal wave and took back control. I will say, at the beginning of my pregnancy, I went right back to the depths because it was something I had never handled before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was right back in the middle of struggling, but I knew enough to ask for help this time. So that was perfect.
Yeah.
So I got right with my therapist. We started working through these things, but I would journal about it. And I looked for those journals and I've since deleted them. And I wish I didn't. I had texted them to in my phone or whatever. And I remember looking back on it not too long ago and crying as I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me so emotional because it's so painful. Like people think an eating disorder is so surface level or vain, I guess is the word.
Or selfish.
Yeah. They think like that you're just like trying to be something beautiful or, whatever. And it is so painful. It's just something that people don't understand enough about, the pain inside someone's hand, like inside their head, behind that pretty face or whatever it is. Like, so I deleted them because it was actually worse for me to read them. But I remember reading them and, it was talking about how I would wake up in the morning and I would weigh myself and struggle with the fact that I've gained weight one day. Why did I gain weight? Oh my gosh, the snowball is going to go out of control. And then fast forward a couple of days later to an entry and I hadn't gained weight. And I'm blaming myself and wondering, is my baby okay inside? Am I starving this child? Am I being selfish? So it was back and forth between this narrative of keep in control of your own body and nourish a new life that needs you to give it what it needs. And like, just, it's just flooding me again, just thinking about it, just feeling so torn between what I had always known and being in control and just knowing I had to surrender that for something I loved so much but had never met. And it was painful. It was a lot of therapy, I will say. I had to talk and I had to write, and just to make sure I set myself aside for a while because I had that precious little baby inside of me who didn't have a say.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of conversations, but Ed was not nice at the beginning. I will tell you that much.
I love that you've named him Ed. I feel like that it makes me smile. And I think I saw you smile too when you were talking about it. But I think that even just naming our demons that are in our head, whether it's anxiety or the eating disorder or depression, can help bring humor and even just realistic expectations when we talk about it to others.
Yeah. It's easy because I would like, I know it sounds crazy and people probably, I'm not like, I don't really hear voices. So I don't want you to get me wrong.
I don't feel like that. I understand what you're saying.
But you can almost yell at that voice and rationalize as if it were another person. Like, you're being crazy right now. Like, that is not real. Stop talking. Don't, like, that's out of control. Like, it was a lot easier to separate myself from these thoughts that are so wild and radical and untrue. So yeah, it did help a lot with that.
I think that people, and this is myself included, who struggle with their mental health, which would you put an eating disorder under a mental health?
100%.
Yes. So I do struggle with my mental health as well, with anxiety and depression. And so I remember even just very recently, I had an anxiety attack, and I had to just tell myself the truth. Be like, you are making this choice for your own mental health. You made this choice to show up in an honest way with others. You have to bring your authentic self to the table. You can't worry so much about what people are thinking about you. And so just like constantly speaking truth to your mental health lies it's so important, and it's so exhausting. So when you're telling this part of your story and I'm seeing your tears and hearing your voice, I can see and empathize with that pain in a certain way. So thank you for telling that. I know it's not easy, and I really appreciate you telling and honestly sharing your story like that.
I will say another voice that I heard though through the whole thing that was my family, and they have since grown, and they're such advocates for me. I will say that they've been amazing. So I do not want anybody to think they have done research and throughout my whole thing been right there with me, making the hard calls and calling me on my BS if I was going down the wrong path. They have been amazing. But this baby was something new for all of us, my husband included, and he and my family all struggled with trusting me. And I don't blame them. They're looking at me and they already think that I'm barely hanging on to my own health. And then they're thinking about this baby inside of me and just worried that I'm going to hide things again or lie to them again. And they're protecting this child too, because they love this baby. And so some of the comments that they had made and the doctors and, you need to cut back on exercise. You're not giving the baby enough. And, a lot of these, they were real fears. And I heard them too in my own head. But I also knew that I wasn't hiding anything, and I knew that I was eating, and they couldn't be sure. And so a lot of those comments from outside, and once the baby was born, and I had only gained 15 pounds throughout my pregnancy, which is very low, and so I really got that towards the end. I remember going to an anatomy scan and he was small, and they were like, we might have to monitor you. And I just felt so guilty. And I had been doing everything right. I really had. I had been exercising. My doctor had cleared me for that. And I had been eating healthy, but I'd been eating enough. And I remember being at the anatomy scan and just being like, this is my fault. Like, I did something wrong. And the doctor reassured me that many women go through this and whatever. And fast forward to full-term pregnancy, and a healthy, almost 8-pound boy comes out. And I looked at everybody and I was like, I told you. It was a victory for me, because they had, and they apologized, because I had worked so hard during my pregnancy to keep it in check, and every day, and we joked about it at the end. There was no bad blood about it. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, I told you guys I was doing fine. Like, I knew he was good. And they were like, we're sorry. We're totally sorry. You had it under control. And so it's just nice that the people in my life and I have that relationship where we can be just like brutally honest. For them to look at me and say, like, I'm doubting you, is hard to hear, but I'm thankful that they say it to my face and not behind my back.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, having that support, even if everybody was bringing their fears to the table and you had to prove to them that you were trustworthy, like, having that support is so essential to, I'm sure, to your own healing and then your relationship with yourself and your baby.
Yeah, for sure.
So after your pregnancy, taking this issue of control of your life, as that's like the main struggle with the eating disorder for you, how do you think that has manifested itself in motherhood as you bring yourself to your motherhood relationship, but also bringing your child into this motherhood relationship?
I get so emotional about thinking about that date. All 9 months you're waiting to meet this baby. You're so excited and you can't wait to meet them. And then they come out and you meet them for the first time, but you meet someone new also, and you meet yourself in a totally different way. And I remember I felt like a level of my heart was unlocked that had never been opened, that I don't know if you can experience any other way except through motherhood. And like blinders of my eyes, I just saw the world so different in an instant. I thought I loved this baby while they were inside of me, and of course I did, but oh heavens, when I held him, like it was like the world, like the earth just stopped moving. And I literally just, so I truly feel like there was so much healing in just that moment. I just felt like, I don't know, some of it just came out, like just left me in that instant. And I don't know if it will ever creep back in. I think my priority shifted to, like they say, when you have a baby, your heart beats outside of your body now. You look at this child and it's just so different. And so I think that a lot of the cares of my eating disorder, maybe the control, I guess, that the issue of control shifted more to my kid, so now I have this child. So I do think that it was just that my eating disorder will never, hopefully, never be such an enemy of mine again. But I have to, now I've learned that I try to control the surroundings that my child is in and things like that. So it's like the control shifted a little bit to the thing I cared more about now, which was not me.
Yeah.
And it was this child. And so since becoming a mom, I will say my eating disorder, it's still there. Like I said, Ed still talks to me sometimes and things, but it definitely has shifted to, trying to make sure my child is okay and the fears that come along with motherhood. I will say too, like, now I've gone through having a baby, like being pregnant for 9 months and having a child. And, if I just give myself more grace about my body, like, I guess it's just, I've learned to like love myself differently because I'm a mom now, and the way that they look at you, and just, you could be at your totally worst and they just love you so much,
Yeah.
And so that has taught me so much self-love. And I've learned, honestly, through having this child, I've since had another baby as well.
Was your pregnancy different than your first pregnancy?
Physically, it was very similar. Mentally, I was so much better. I really didn't have those fears. Like I'd gone through it, and I realized that the snowball thing was such a lie, like that if I ate the right stuff that nourished my body, and if I moved my body in ways that felt good, there was not going to be a snowball effect. And I was going to be able to return to a somewhat normal, or how I felt before. Like I was going to get back to myself. I knew that the second time. I didn't know that the first time. It was so scary. I was walking such an unknown path the first time. The second time I was like, I've done this. And my voice was so strong then. I just had such confidence about it. And so I was like, I did give in a little more to the self-love and the cravings, and I just was way in more control. And I also just knew that how much it was going to be worth it.
Yes.
All of that. So it the second time was much, much easier for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I could just see your first pregnancy as like this really fiery, intense transformation. And then you were able to reap like all the struggle. You were able to reap the benefits during your second pregnancy
Oh, definitely.
of that struggle.
Yes. definitely. I had put the hard work in, laid the groundwork, and definitely it helped a lot. And so I know we don't want to be done having children. And I'm just thankful, that I've just learned and grown so much each time. So
Yeah, that's great.
mm-hmm.
So if you met another mom who is struggling maybe with an eating disorder or even just fear that takes over in a controlling way that is controlling her choices about her life or her body, what could you say to her that could help her along her path?
Well, I am a huge advocate for therapy. I think that it's just important I don't even think my therapist says 5 words during our sessions. And sometimes I'm like, I don't even need this. I don't even need to go. And then an hour goes by and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the fastest hour of my life. I just need to hear myself say some of these things, to like set time aside just to like hear your own thoughts that you won't even realize that you were thinking. You're going to walk away like, wait, what? So I'm a huge advocate for therapy. But I've really learned that like knowledge is power for me. So like right next to me, I have a book that I can send you the name of it so you can put it on there. It says Eating Disorder Recovery in Pregnancy and Postpartum. I literally ordered it like the day after I found out I was pregnant. I made my counseling appointment, ordered the book, highlighter, notes, just to realize like, you're not alone. You're not crazy. All these thoughts, whether it's, I mean, maybe you're going into your pregnancy and you've always struggled with alcohol. And now you're like, how am I going to go 9 months without my addiction? Or, maybe you're in an abusive relationship and you're pregnant or whatever. Mine was my eating disorder, but I know that whatever you or any other mommy is struggling with, someone else is too. And there's a resource for you. So to like arm yourself with stories from others and what did they do and what resources are there. Just like knowledge is so powerful, and learning about it and realizing that, oh my goodness, I'm not crazy and this is a normal thought. And then reading what they did to overcome those thoughts. Like the book helped so much. And I just remember taking notes and crying and laughing and just walking away feeling so restored knowing that. So I think that just getting some resources to help with whatever your personal struggle is huge. Writing things down so that you can look back on your thoughts is also really powerful. And I think one of the biggest things is just like being transparent. I think that, darkness is just where things can grow. And I just think that if you shed light on things, your struggle is going to like, you're going to still be struggling, but it's going to feel so much less oppressive. Like you're going to feel like you have help, you can't hide it. I just think people need to be honest with themselves and with the people that love them. Because if they love you, they're going to want nothing but helping you. So.
Yeah, that's great. I remember I'm thinking of a quote from an article I wrote one time, and I said, that which is hidden in darkness cannot be healed by love.
For sure.
And so sometimes we think that there's such safety in keeping things to ourselves. Like we don't want to bother anybody else with our pain, or they don't really care, or nobody can really help me. But that's not true. Like we have to bring things forward. And I think that even like you said, your therapy appointments where your therapist doesn't say anything and you just get the stuff out of your body, literally. Right. I think that for myself, a lot of times I just ruminate on all of my thoughts. And then when I say them out loud or I write them down, I get them literally out of my system.
Yes.
And then they don't have as much power anymore. So getting it out of your system is like a path towards health, as opposed to like this rumination that like metastasizes in your body and just toxicity, whatever that may look like. So yes, I love what you said. I think those are really good points and great resources. And I'm going to share those in the show notes. So
I will say one last thing too. I think that one of my biggest, I didn't remember this just a second ago, but one of the biggest things that drives me even now with whatever struggles I have is looking at myself through the lens of my children and what do I want them to see? And I think it gives power to the right aspects of life, and it makes some of those other things just really fall away, So I've really tried that as well. Like, what do they love? Like, to remind myself, like, what makes them love me? And it's never the things that are negative in my head about myself. Like, none of that matters. None of those things would make the list. And so just reminding myself, just checking in with reality, I guess, through the eyes of being a mother has been really helpful, because they don't care about most of the things that I say negative about myself.
Yeah.
They would
that's
never
really beautiful.
they would never make their list of why they love me or why they don't, so I just want to be the best mom so that I can be for them. And so I try to see myself through their eyes sometimes. And that's helpful.
That's beautiful. All right. To end our time together, I just like to do something fun with guests. And I have these 10 rapid fire questions.
Oh, goodness.
I like that. They're only fun. So no worries.
Okay.
All right. So number 1, which Disney princess would you want to take out to coffee?
Oh, probably Ariel.
Nice.
My husband's always had a crush on her, so I have to pick her brain.
That's right. Tell me your secrets.
Right.
What's one thing you must have on your nightstand?
Oh, I would say probably a glass of water. I wake up in the middle of the night and just need it.
Yeah, you need a drink. You don't want to have to go to the bathroom. Your water's right there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a go-to treat after the kids go to bed.
Oh, trail mix all the way.
Nice.
So like with the M&Ms and stuff. Oh my goodness. Yep. But I eat the raisins too, though. Don't get me wrong. But that's my weakness for sure.
Just a little mix with everything.
Yep.
All right, heels or flats?
Oh, I'm getting so much more into heels because I never go out. So like when I do go out, I'm like, I have to wear a heel. Like it almost feels weird not to now, but when I was working, and it's way more practical. Flats are way more practical. But you feel different. I think you walk different. Like obviously you do, but I'm just saying, I think you just stand even different with heels. So I've been getting more into heels.
I like that. I like that. Last show you binged and loved?
Ted Lasso.
Oh,
I just rewatched the Emmys, or was it the Emmys? I think I don't know. Whatever show that they did.
Award show, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they were like talking about the show, and it kept getting like nominated, and I was like, I never even heard of it. So we started it, and it's about sports. I was like, well, I could take it or leave it. And I love it. I love it. So funny.
Yeah. I've watched the first 2 episodes, and we just haven't broken it out and gotten the Apple TV subscription. So we just need to, because it's delightful.
It's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah. If you run out of this, other than milk, you have to go to the store.
Coffee.
Yeah, I know. That's a must have. Yeah. You got to just, whether it's 10 o'clock at night, you're like, we got to go to the store.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. Who makes you laugh?
Oh, probably right now, mostly my toddler, or my baby is pretty funny too. He's only 8 months. They're both pretty funny in their own ways, and seeing them together has started to be really hilarious.
That's great. Yeah. I love seeing those sibling relationships grow, and they are very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
What are you looking forward to?
Oh, we have a trip planned to Orlando at the end of the month.
Oh, fun.
I think I've talked about it every 2 hours since I found out we were going. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but I'm so excited just to get out of the same, I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. I stay at home with the kids, and these 4 walls, I just need to go, and I'm so excited.
That's great. I hope you guys have a great time. Final question. Motherhood is, finish the sentence.
Oh, life-changing.
Yeah, that's great. And especially hearing your story, I can see that wonderful transformation. I really appreciate you being on today, Caitlin. Thanks
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. Next, tell your friends. Podcasts are a slow growth type of social media, so promo works best when it's from person to person. If you know another mom who's in the goop right now, send her a text of encouragement and the link to the episode that is speaking to your heart right now. If you have a story about your own matrescence, the physical, emotional, hormonal, and social transition that occurs when someone becomes a mother, please leave a comment below. I want this channel to be a place where women can build community about the challenges and joys of their own motherhood metamorphosis. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope it encouraged you and gave you some good food for thought. If you ever have any questions, comments, or you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can email me at brittanyaming@gmail.com.
Yep, I will watch you call. I will.
I'm waiting for you to text, and
I'm going to text you when it stops ringing. Yeah.